Hey guys, it's me again. I'm just going to be showing you how to make a small little project. Um, as some of you probably know, I'm a huge fan of, sorry about that, I'm a huge fan of League, League of Legends that is, and one of the great things about it is there are a lot of different stats sites to help you analyze, and one that I'm a part of and I, collaborate with and such is Mobalytics here. And they have a lot of little neat stuff, like lol.mobalytics, and this is just like an enhanced version of op.gg. And so something that'd be really nice is if you could, from your opgg, automatically link and get the information from the Mobalytics, because like opgg just presents the information. Like if I go to my account here, it just presents that I'm bad. Um, right? So it just presents the information, but if I go over to lol.mobalytics and go to my profile, we'll see more in-depth statistics, like how I've been climbing in the ranks, uh, my champion win rates, records, player statistics, all this really neat stuff that's really helpful. Even, this random little daily activity thing. So it'd be really nice to be able to link directly from here to here. So what's the best way to do that? Well, I think the best way to do that is maybe just have a little button here that'll just automatically redirect me to this. Right? So that's what I'm going to be showing you how to build today. It may seem stupid, but it'll demonstrate everything that you need to go ahead and get into making Chrome extensions. And next week I'm going to be showing you how to build an Electron application, and yeah, and we'll see what goes on after that, depending on what you guys want to see. So the first thing I'm going to suggest. Oh, and quick note before you get into this, you can probably tell that I'm still a bit sick. I've been sick lately, so my voice is kind of messed up. And yeah, and you might hear me coughing a bit, so I apologize for that. I'll try my best to get that out of it. But to start off with, I'm gonna show you this neat little page called Extensionizer, and this just creates a nice little Chrome base plate that you can go ahead and build off of, which I think is really nice. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be, and so we want this to be, well, alright, so we have three different types. We can have a hidden extension, a page action, or browser action. So a hidden extension is if we just want it to be in the background, it's hidden, we don't see like any of this stuff. A page action is if like, and it's neat because it links to it, is it creates a little icon up in the corner to up here, if you can see. They can only be active on like certain web pages and stuff, but they're really helpful. And then lastly, we have browser actions, and this allows us to have something up in the top right, and have a little icon, and we can have a pop-up like this, and this, or this. We can have a pop-up and be able to interact with it and such. For the sake of this, though, I'll just be doing browser action, just so that when I click it, it'll automatically redirect over to the main Mobalytics site, because it's something that I use personally often, because I'm bad and they give me help for free. But yeah, so just select browser action, background page. We're not going to have a background page. It's just going to be, you click it and it redirects it. So we're going to have no background. Options page, we're not going to have an options page. Override, no override. What overriding does is it just allows you to, well, probably as you can tell, it just override these options, but it gives the extension permission to control these. Then content scripts, excuse me, we are going to be injecting JavaScript. We're not going to be injecting CSS. We don't need any of that stuff. We're going to be doing it in pure JavaScript. URL permissions, just, you don't need to mess with this. We're going to have to fiddle with that anyways. And we're not going to need any of this either. And the reason you don't really want to do anything is because it'll show, like, if we select this, it'll say um, then Chrome will warn the user, like under permissions, this app or this extension requests the right to modify your history or something like that, which seems really suspicious, right? So you can do a lot of stuff without it, but sometimes you're absolutely gonna need to get the permissions for you, and then you're just gonna download it, and you get a nice little thing here. So just go ahead and drag this to a new place. I'm just gonna go ahead and here we go. And let me just go ahead and so you want to drag everything in the file, including the locals file. Because it's all in the manifest, and if you don't link it, it'll be a big pain to link it, or it'll just crash and everything. Alright, so now that I have that, we're going to do open folder, programming, teaching, Comer. Can't spell for shit. Alright, and that's all we're really going to need to do. To go ahead and add it real quick. To go ahead and add it to Chrome real quick so we can use it, is we just go to Chrome, extensions, click load unpacked, and just go to where it is, programming, teaching, Chrome extension, and there it is. Yeah. And that's all you gotta do. And as you can see, now we have a little thing up in the top right. It makes a little pop down. And yeah, so it's great. So the first thing we're gonna do though is we're gonna just go ahead and get rid of the pop down. So you have three different things. You have JS and CS here. These are, we're not gonna need those, so you're just gonna delete those folders. And then under browse in action, we're not gonna use that either. So in the manifest, because this is what the main boilerplate is for, because the manifest is what controls everything, right? And it's a big pain to do everything. So we can change this description or whatever it is. We can change the name to whatever we want, and as soon as we do,
on Friday the year,
oops, we just go ahead and click this refresh button, and it'll reload the application. But note, if you do change the name, you're going to have to go through and re-add it because it's seen as a different extension. But yeah, version, each time you upload it to the Chrome Web Store, you have to increase it or else it'll give you an error. Description, like I said, just homepage URL, icons, which you can get from IC and put your own icons in there, default locale, if we see under here, and this allows us to give different messages based on where the person, what language they have set and stuff. Now browser action, default pop-up, so we're not going to have that, we don't need that, and since the pop-up, we're not having any pop-up, it doesn't need a title. So just leave the icon, and if we go back, and see that it still works, so we click the refresh button, now nothing happens. Right? And then we get to content scripts. And so, okay, so in Chrome development, you have two types of scripts. You have the background and the content scripts. What the background does is that's run as the extension. That's how you go ahead. Excuse me. That's how you go ahead and, like, if you're gonna make a new tab, you got to do it in the background script. Like, that's where you do all the Chrome level APIs. You cannot do those in the content scripts. Likewise, a lot of things you can do in the content scripts you can't do in the background scripts, and that's because these content scripts are the ones that are going to go ahead and get these content scripts are going to be the one who's going to get injected into the web page based upon these matches. And there are a couple different ones that you can use, and you can just go to their developer, like any URL is one, just this, but they have a pretty strict matching thing, so we're going to go ahead and follow that. So we want this to work on OPGG pages. And if you don't know, OPGG has many different like domains for each region that it looks at. So like Korea is kr.op.gg. North America is na.op.gg, right? So you want to do dot star, and so this is the any selector. So this will do. Okay, sorry about that. So what the star does is that's the any selector, so it'll be anything.op.gg. And one thing we want to make sure, we also are going to add the endings to it so it only works on profile pages. And then another case that can happen is same thing, just gonna copy it, except it's just gonna be op.gg because that can happen sometimes. And then I'm just gonna copy it one more time because I want to count for non-HTTPS links. And so now anything that matches these URLs will have this content script injected into it, which we can see from right here. And one other thing that we want to add real quick is we want to add a background script. So just anywhere, I'm going to do it right here. We just add background. Just make it an object. I'm just going to do this for styling sake, comma. Alright, and just going to do scripts, and this is going to be an array. And I mean, because we only want to inject one script, we're only going to put one element in there. But that's if you want to inject multiple different scripts. Well, not inject. That's what the content scripts here. This is what this is injecting, but just multiple different files that you want to be running from the code extension. So we're going to go ahead and do the background script first. So just go ahead and source, because that's where we set it to. Just create a new file, background.js. Right, pretty simple. And so this is really easy. It's only 5 lines for this. It'll show you like kind of what's going on here. And so we gotta access in this file to the Chrome APIs. So we're gonna do Chrome dot browser action dot on clicked dot add listener. Alright, and that's all we're doing for this, right? So this is saying, hey, grab the Chrome API, grab to this specific section of Rosy Eyes. Now we want to check this, like if the browser action, which is the icon up in the corner, and just add a listener for when that is on click. So when this triggers, execute this code, and we're just going to pass a function. And one thing to note is with these, you get an active tab object. We don't need that. We're not going to use it. But you can just put it there in case you do need to or need to access it. And so from here, it's pretty straightforward. So we're just going to do let new URL equal, and we'll just do the Mobilytics website, right? Because that's what I was working with them. I don't work, just note, I do not work for them, nor do I own them, or anything like that. I just, work with some of their members, and I made this little quality of life thing for them. But from here on out, so when we click it, we want it to create a new tab. So we tell, hey Chrome, we want to access your tabs, and we want to create one, right? And all we do is we pass in an object here, and we pass it in one parameter, and it's just going to be URL, and we're going to pass it the URL that we just created. Easy enough. So let's go ahead and test it. So refresh the page. We can see that has a background page now. If we just click it, boom, it takes us to a new tab. Perfect. Now, what we want to go ahead and do is we want to go ahead and put in the code that injects it. Now this is a bit more involved. And so I'll go ahead and do my best to explain it, right? And how I go through the process and everything. And so the first thing I want to note is that this here is basically, the way the background script and the content scripts interact with each other. You can send a message. So on this side, it says chrome.extension.send message, blank, and then function response. What that's doing is that it'll send a message, and this one we can set up a listener to listen for that message to respond to it, etc. And basically what this is doing is this is just setting a function to run every 10 milliseconds, and once the document has finished loading and everything is ready, then whatever is in this if statement will execute, which is a hello, this message was sent. So this is when it's done loading. However, we want this to be fast. We're not going to do any DOM manipulation on things that take a while to upload. This is going to be really good if, for instance, the website you're trying to modify or work with does not have server-side rendering, for instance, because it'll load on your side and this code will be possibly run before the server-side rendering is done. So this is a good way to make sure that everything is finished loading and then you run your code to make sure everything works. However, because we are not working with things that take time to load, we're fine here and just getting rid of this. Yeah. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and plan out how are we going to go ahead. How are we going to go ahead and put next to this button? Well, one way we can do it is we can grab this button and just place it after. And so luckily there's a really easy way to do that. But first, we got to find out how in the world are we going to go ahead and get that button. Well, lucky for us, JavaScript allows us to do that really easily. So the first thing we have to do though is we have to go and look into our HTML here and just kind of dissect it and see how it works. So we can see that these buttons are in a div called buttons. And once we grab this div, we can go ahead and grab independent elements. But we're going to go ahead and just worry about this one because this one's going to be on every web page. You would know that if you worked with OPG, or not worked, no, but like used a lot, like I have. Yeah, so we're going to base it off this. Another thing you could do is you could just duplicate this button and place it afterwards. However, the issue with that is because that's the first thing I tried. Right, actually the second thing I tried. The first thing I tried was just creating a button, placing it next to it, and just doing some styles to make it similar. But that didn't work out because it was really weird with the CSS. Like if you changed anything after it's already rendered, the whole thing would break. So that didn't work. Now, I did an exact copy of the button, right? So that worked out pretty well. But then I realized that, this button has some functions attached to it through a way that I don't really know how. It's like encoded in the way that it was worked. And so when I created a direct copy of it, every single function was also copied onto it. So it didn't just do a shallow copy like I was hoping it would. It does a deep copy. So that doesn't work out either. So we're going to have to do the next best thing. So we're going to have to copy every computed style. And the difference between styling and computed styling is style is like the CSS, right? The computed style is like how it looks once it's done rendering. And when you want to use that, because the CSS can be different from the computed style. And the computed style is more absolute, while the CSS, uses relatives and all that. So the computed style is going to be much more helpful in copying the way it looks. And we can just go in with JavaScript and change it later. So the first thing we want to do here is we want to just right-click, copy, selector, right? And there's a great thing in JavaScript, and we can do two things: document.query selector, and just paste that selector in there, and we can get the element. Another thing that we can do, and is a lot shorter, which for this particular case I'd recommend, is get element by by class name. Or sorry, get elements by class name. And we put in the thing. I think it is case sensitive, so just be careful with that. And it's not like jQuery where you have to put in like dot or hashtag, because we're specifying by the function, by class name, you just put in what it is, and it's button. So we can see there's only one, so it'll be a perfectly fine thing to do. And just to note is when you're working with these, it returns things as an array. So you have to, access the first element of the array, because if there were multiple, then we do 0, 1, 2, etc. But just because there's only one element in this collection, I guess not specifically an array, we just use this array notation. So if we go back into our code, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and we're going to grab the update button. Because we don't need all the buttons, we only need that one button. So document dot get element by class name buttons 0. Alright. So if we go back to our thing, we can see that it grabs the div, but inside the div you want to grab it the button itself. So we can grab its children by using .children, and now we can see that we get several different types of buttons. But we only want this first button here, and again it's a collection, so we can just do 0 again. Oops. 0 like that, and then boom, we get this first button. So this is exactly what we want. So we'll just do that. Alright. Next thing we want to create a button. So in JavaScript, it's really easy. Just do var, the name of the variable that's going to hold it, equals document dot create element, and just pass a button. There we go. You've created a button. Now we can place this button anywhere we want. But first, we want to apply the styles for it. So we're just going to go ahead and grab, in fact, actually I'm going to change these to let, because people keep harping on to me about that. But we want to grab the computed style. If I could spell, yeah. And the reason we're using a constant for this is because we don't want this to change, because we want this thing, once we grab the values, we want it to stay the same. So I don't even think we need window, but we can just use get computed style, and we pass it an element, and we're going to pass it the update button. Right? So that's perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pass every style, and so here I can quickly show you what that does. So we have, let's just go ahead and do this real quick. So our update, oh perfect, already. We can do it again. Alright, so var update button. So as we can see, update button, we have the element. So if you do get computed style, you pass it update button. Oops. We get every single style in it. So, and the way we can access that is we can do, if we just do .get property value and just the name of the object, which say get computed style of update button dot, and the way we're going to access this collection is we're going to use .item, because it's just more proper in this case. .2. Ready? So we get 0s, and that's going to do, since we did item 2, 0, 1, 2, animation duration. So it has 0 seconds animation duration. But I guess if you really wanted to, you could also just use array notation. But yeah, it doesn't matter. Just, it's a personal preference. But .item is more JavaScript-esque, so that's what I'll be using. Alright, so now that we have that, we want to iterate through, I guess let again. We just want to iterate through each element, and we're going to be using a standard for loop. Oh, man, I keep doing that lately. Alright, and we're going to make the current CSS object property equal to computed style dot at index I, or dot item I. Again, I don't really care. Both work just fine. They literally do the same thing. But that item, I guess, is for collections, and it's an element there. So might as well. It probably just calls it anyways. But we want to go ahead and then take that object property. So we want to do the button, and then the way we access styles is we just do dot style, and we can either access it using another dot, say like height, for instance, and just set that equal, or since we were doing other things since it's an array, we can pass in the CSS object property itself as a variable, and we'll assign it. And like I showed you before, just get the property value of that CSS object property, and then boom. And so we're just gonna change the button to different styles and text inside. So just button dot, and we can change the inner text by using dot inner text equals to, I guess, just Nobalytics. Let's change the background color, so that's style dot background color equals, and this is one that I have written down over here. This is a purplish color. And yeah, so what we're going to be using too, insert the button, sorry, had to cough there. What we're going to be using to insert the button is, well, something called insert adjacent element. So what we can do is we can take an element and we can use dot insert adjacent element, tell it where we want it to, so like before it ends. So like there's 4 different options: after end, before end. I don't remember the other 2, but I can pull up the docs here. Element. Yeah, here we go. So we can, yeah, here we go. Before begin, before end, after end. And so we can just look it up and then see an example of how it's working. So we say we take the element, and we can actually take, yeah, so we can look at this. So we have active element, which just assume that that's the one that you've chosen. Dot insert adjacent before begin, insert before or insert after, depending on, yeah. So we want it to insert after, so we'll use, if we look back up, after end, because we want it after the target itself and not inside, and it's not, just inside the target element before its first child. We want it after the target itself, but I guess both would work, but after end is the more correct version here. So we'll use the update button, because this is the one we want to place the button relative to, dot insert adjacent element, and if we go back to the doc, you can see that you choose the position, this is the position, and then the element. So put this in first, after end, and then the element, just the button, and let's see if it works. Right. So just refresh the extension, have it off screen, and refresh the page. And we can see that document is not found. So we can, if no is there an error, we can see it as inject.js, or the name of our file. So you see, I just had a simple error document. There we go. I should have seen that. My bad. Alright, try it again. Okay, we can see that it works. Well, sort of. We click it, nothing happens, and it looks deformed. So, what we can do is we can just try a couple things. As we can see, every single style is added. But what happens if we just try and change? This is what I suggest when you're like manipulating the DOM. You just go in here, you mess with these nice friendly tools. See, what if we change it to 46? Alright, everything's broken. So, what if we just don't copy the width? See if that works. Just gonna try something out, because if it doesn't copy the width, then hopefully what it'll do is it'll automatically compute its width properly. So let's just try it out. So here you just do if here if see it says object property does not equal width, then run it. Run the code. And let's see if that works. Hey, looks. It works perfectly. Alright, that's wonderful. Alright, but nothing happens when we click it. Well, that's because we have to tell it to. So, let's go back into our code here. And we're going to write a little function called toMoba. Alright. Alright, so what do you want to do? Well, first of all, we want to go ahead and grab the name of the person. And as we can see, I mean, we could grab this, but one great example of why that doesn't work is if we go to, you know, a different region that has really weird names, I guess by our standards. Korea. So, if we look here, the name in here is, I guess, the more correct version, but if we look in here, you know, this one has like spaces and everything. So if you grab this name and try and use this in our URL, it'll be space and everything's gonna wreck, crash, and burn. So we gotta grab it from up here. So the way we do that is actually a neat little function called window.location.pathname. And as we can see, it'll tell us this is the URL encoded version. But, you know, if we just split this, and one thing to note is window location is an object and it has multiple different ways. Path name, origin, href, which is the full URL, host name, just host, a lot of neat stuff. And you can also do things in here like window.location dot, as we can see some of the functions here, dot uload. Here, look. Let's see up here, refresh the page. So, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're just going to go ahead and take that window location dot path name, and the reason we're using the path name is so we only grab this /summoner/username bit, because it just makes it easier to control and less information to have to split up and stuff. So, and then we're going to just split it. I feel like the best way, you can either use regex to grab it, or because, like I said, if you use OPGG enough, you'll know that there's really no variation to this format here. There's no, like, PHP, so there's no, like, question mark stuff involved, so this would work perfectly fine. Otherwise, you'd probably want to use regex to go ahead and grab the information. But we're just going to do .split. We're going to split it username equals, give us the Y origin, and we're going to take, let's see, what, the first item. Yes, we want to take the first item, because we don't want what's before it, we want what's after it. So there we go. We got that, right? But there's some weird issues that you have to take into account. What if there are spaces in here? Because one thing that I noticed when I was originally going through and planning this out was that some names, when they had spaces in it, would be encoded differently up here than if it were here. Like, one person I found, his name was addicted to Elo, and so it was addicted plus 2 plus Elo, right? But here, it was addicted space 2 space Elo. So, when you go back and try and, like, connect it, things break down. So we want things to be as constant as possible. So, we want to replace all instances of the plus with just a space for this name. Because and the reason we're doing this here and not grabbing here, like I said before, is because it adds unnecessary characters in here, which when we go to send it over causes a lot of issues, and will cause it the extension just to be useless, right? So, but there's another issue, right? Not everything is replaced when we use .replace, so we have to make our own replace function. So that's a bit of a pain, right? But I'm going to show you how to use JavaScript's prototypal language, so we can make this like a neat little learning experience. So we can just create a new string function, and this is only for strings, so we type in string dot prototype dot the name of our function, so replace all, equals function, and then what we want to pass. Search replacement. And so so there's a couple reasons we're going to be using this way. So what this is saying is like, so for every object that is a string, give it a new prototype. So access prototype, which in case you don't know, Java is called a prototypal inheritance language. And then we're going to want to create this new function in this. And we just want to set this equal to the function we want to do. So one of the great things is we can set the target that we're like going to do all the replacing to this, because this is going to be the object that we're working on, which is the string object. Then we're going to do just return. This is a little algorithm. I put quotations around that. But you just split at where you want to search for, and then just join with what you want to replace it with. Because this creates an array, and this join brings the arrays together and puts what you set in here. So this works out great. So just copy that, bring that into our code over here. Not in there, just put it at the bottom. So now all our strings will have access to this .replace all function, and only our strings. Also, just go ahead and make a new variable named name. Let name equal to window.location.pathname.split username equals 1, and then we'll use our new function line because that'll be a new string there, and then just replaces all pluses with that. And the only way that I really came to know about this is just through testing. You want to try in different types of names, different characters, unique characters, Chinese names, Korean names, Japanese names, and names with spaces. You want to try everything out so you find these bugs, right? And that's how, and then you just go through and you just kind of have to deduce what the issue is. Well, it's like, well, I saw what's going on here. When I'm trying to link myself over to the other page, you know, this name had spaces in it. But this was going in as pluses, but the other site can't read as pluses. So my job is to convert their URLs into a different URL that they can read. So you just got to go through and try and figure that stuff out. But there. So we get the name. The next thing we're going to go ahead and do is, if we go to their server, just see an example. This is how you figure out how you want to do it. You go see an example, see, alright, how does it work? So we have /somewhere/ it looks like their server, their name, and then these other parameters we don't care about. So a good way to determine whether or not if it's necessary is you just delete it. If it changes, it's not important. So you can just leave this as is. You can, set your parameters, see how that worked out. So let's see, we change parameters. Oh, we can see it changes in the URL. So let's say we want only a link to this parameters. So we'll just leave this in and we'll copy all that, right? So we'll get to that in a second. The next thing we want to go and do is, so we have this thing requires two pieces of information: the name, which we just figured out how to do, and then the server. So how on this website do we figure out the server? Well, like I said, if you know the application and you've used a lot, you can say, oh, you can set your server up here. And just conveniently, they have all the same shorthand. So like NA over here is the same over here, except this is capitalized. So we want to see, does it work if this is capitalized? Or I'm not on LAN, so let's just do capital NA. So we can see that it does not work because it registers at a different user. Kind of weird, but so we want to make sure it's just two lowercase, which is easy. But so yeah. So let's go ahead and get the server. So, like we always use, just select an element, figure out what's the easiest way to grab this. Well, if we can just do copy selector, just paste it over here, we can see we get this long thing, but at the end, we see that it has this class. So just to shorten the code, we don't need to grab that, and we can just do document.get elements by class name. Boom, pass that in there, see if it only returns one object. We see it does not return anything, so we figured we did something wrong. So, what did we do wrong? Oh, you can see what we did wrong here. I passed it a period. Like I said before, you don't want to pass it in there. Okay. And let's see here. So how do we get the text in there? Remember, it's just inner text. Perfect. That gives us what we want. But we also want to make sure it's 2 lowercase. You gotta forget that. So easy. So just go ahead and copy this. And now we go ahead and have the server. So now all we want to do is we're going to go ahead and put this information and put it into the URL that this requires. And we just want it to open a new tab. And the way you do that is you do window.open URL and then the features. So the feature we're going to add is underscore blank, and this makes it into a new tab instead of opening it in the current tab. That's important to know. And then to go ahead and just set it. So right now, the way we have it is it'll just, if we, run this function, it'll get the name, get the server, and then just open in a new tab this link. But we don't want it to run, my information all the time. We want it to run into the information we just got. So just go ahead and plug it in. This is server plus, alright, and then just add the plus name plus and alright, let's see if it worked. So go through, refresh the extension, come over here, reload the page. Oh no, it doesn't work. Why isn't it working? Well, let's see. Simple. We forgot to append a listener to the button. So easy enough. Just go under button dot add event listener. Tell it when it gets a click event. Just run the function to MOBA. Easy enough. So now we reload the page again and run it. We say when day out is not defined, and that means we just did a number. Simple thing again. I gotta stop doing that. Alright, there we go. Refresh, reload the page again. There we go. It takes us to the site. Now remember what I said. You always want to do unit testing. Try different names. So let's try Korean names again. Something that's different. Go leaderboards. Find the top person. And try there to see if they work out. We see, oh no, there's a server error. So why did that happen? Well, obviously, it's got to because, something's not right up here, because that's all we're changing. We can see that the server's definitely right, but we can see that the only other thing that would be wrong is this name. So what if we just directly copy and paste this in instead? See, that also doesn't work. So that means that something is definitely wrong with these characters here. And the answer is, in case you didn't know, is because whenever you're dealing with these kind of like fields, you have to encode it. So if it's special characters and stuff, we have to encode. We use a nice function built in called encode URI. And so this will take the name and just make it, it's the special, take all the special characters and all that stuff, and it'll turn it into a proper URL form, like the %20 and stuff. So now, if you refresh the page, reload that, and update the thing, we'll see that it works just fine. And that's all because we have to properly encode this URL, because these special characters will break it otherwise. And so that's all for this. Thanks for watching. If you guys have any other requests, I know this was a long one. It was 45 minutes almost. But yeah, just come into the Discord. I'll leave that in the description below. Also, I'm going to go ahead and upload my previous videos code, and upload those fix those descriptions. I mean, so thanks you guys for watching. I'll see you next week.